You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. The time is now, I think it says 18 minutes past 7. Now, government leaders, they have agreed a 20-cent cut in excise duty on diesel and a 15-cent cut on petrol. This is happening until the end of May so far.
Join us now, political correspondent with the Journal.ie Jane Matthews is alongside CEO of Alone, Seán Moynihan, and Martina Jennings of the Mayo Roscommon Hospice Foundation. Good morning to you all.
Morning.
Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. Jane, let's just start off with yourself. Obviously, senior ministers met yesterday. They've agreed cuts between 15 and 20 cent going until the end of May. When will these changes start to come in?
Yeah, so the bulk of these changes will start to come in from midnight tonight. We're going to see a Dáil resolution later today to introduce that cut to excise, the 15 cent on petrol, the 20 cent on diesel. And then we're also going to see another levy cut. It's the Nora levy, and that's going to be cut by 2 cents. So it'll raise the drop that people will see will be increased slightly. Now, we've heard from the industry that these price drops aren't going to come in immediately. They'll take a little bit of time to feed through at the pumps for people, but the government will be hoping that this might stem some of the frustration for people at the moment.
Why would it take time to feed through at the pumps when you're like, lads, as soon as there's a twitch and it goes up, it's up straight away, but and it has to come down? Like, let's be honest, people get really frustrated and we talk about it all the time.
Absolutely, and I suppose that's the question that everyone will want to know answered. I mean, and what we're hearing is that it'll be the larger forecourts that will be able to introduce this cut quicker because they're doing a bit more business. The smaller forecourts, it might take a little bit more time for the price drop to feed through. OK, they decided not to do such things as, doubling fuel allowance or anything like that. They spoke about this being a more targeted measure and we shouldn't expect fuel allowances to come in. Is that right, Jane? Yeah, well, so we're going to see the fuel allowance extended through till the end of April. That was something that was agreed last night. The negotiations around this went on for quite a while yesterday evening. That was kind of the fuel allowance seemed to be the contentious area.
OK.
So there was some talk going into the meeting that we would see it doubled. But what seems to have been agreed is that it will be extended until the end of April. Instead, it was due to finish last week. So there's about 500,000 households in the country who will benefit from that. And then what we're told as well is that this is all being kept under review by the government as the situation in the Middle East progresses.
Seán, listen, from Alone, you obviously deal with a lot of people who are struggling out there at the moment. Just to see this, 1 in 10 older people are living in fuel poverty at the minute. How will the rises of the last couple of weeks have affected them, and do you see that the government's intervention will have a good impact on them?
Look, I suppose any intervention is welcome, right? There's an awful lot of people out there struggling and we always have to welcome any interventions. But I think it means we need to open up a wider conversation. Last year we worked with 46,000 people, and for those who came to us around finance issues, nearly 40% of them, when surveyed, said that they'd gone or struggled without heating last winter. And 10% of older people who live on their own, right, are in consistent poverty, right, and around 30% of those who live on their own are at risk of poverty. So, unfortunately, we're always talking about targeting measures, and governments are always saying we'll target measures. So I think for every age group, and we know things like this affect everybody, right, there's always who cannot bear it, who needs to be scaffolded, who needs to be supported. In the age group we support, it will affect all older people, but really those older people on their own, especially those over 75, are really that group that need to be targeted because heating is a public health issue for them.
Well, because you're talking about everything, right? You're on a fixed income when you've got your pension. Now we're seeing that grocery prices, 700 quid is expected to be going on to grocery prices over the course of the year as a result of this. We'd love to hear from you, 089 611 111, whether this affects you or not. It affects everyone, but whether you're older or not. But Seán, we talk about this every single year. We talk about heating when it comes to older people, and it's like we'll throw a little bit of money at the problem while we can, and then we'll just not do anything. Do we not need longer-term solutions?
And I think that's what I think we need to talk about. This is not going to go away. The poverty stats I just quoted were before the energy supports that were in, which we were all welcome during post-pandemic. So next year they're going to get worse, and there's going to be a rise in those statistics, and it's a thing. But behind those statistics are people in older houses, lower BER ratings, people who really can only control food, socialising and transport, all of which are things there's very little cutback. For us last year, there was a huge increase, around 25% of those coming to us with nutrition issues. We actually think that's as much to do with food. People cutting back on the quality of food they're buying because ultimately they're at the pin of their collar. So for us, it's a much wider conversation among all age groups. Who are the people we target and how do we develop that skill of actually targeting those most in need?
Yeah, listen, Martina, you deal with this in carers as well who, listen, do an amazing job right across the country and don't probably get the benefits that they deserve and feel they deserve.
Absolutely not. And a lot of them have been thrown into a situation overnight because, you know, while palliative care is now not only end of life, it's helping people to live as long as they can for as well as they can. But that doesn't change the impact of an overnight diagnosis of a life-limiting illness where you'll have the patient themselves that will be out of work because they can't work, or a parent if a child is diagnosed where they will have to give up work. So all of a sudden they are thrown into the line of poverty. And we've seen over the last 4 weeks in particular in the last week where we've had families that have been looking just to cover the home heating oil and the fuel to get to and from treatments. So I think it is a wider discussion, but we also need to see speed at implementing change. We could do it 6 years ago when COVID came in. Overnight, we could change our social welfare system, we could change our PAYE system, and we could help everybody that was in a crisis. It's taken us 4 weeks, and those 4 weeks have been crucial for the families that need that help because they're on the back foot now.
So because I was reading a bit in the Clare Champion about a carer who serves an older and a spread, like a really wide demographic, right? Driving around Clare as a carer, gone from €44 to €88. She was just like, overnight, my petrol cost, she was like, this is getting untenable for me to be able to do this. So there's the aspect of that, right? Where your actual cost to do your job, because we're hearing an awful lot about the hauliers, but we depend on carers in this country.
That's it. And we also have our community palliative care nurses, our community public health nurses, all of these people that look after the patients. Their mileage is not covering their costs at the minute.
It's not.
It's not possible. Not at all.
I was reading an article at the weekend by Eilish O'Hanlon, though, and she was talking about many of us grew up in cold houses. And it's time we can't just keep expecting the government and relying on government handouts. And she's just saying, should we not just layer up?
I think people already take those situations. Look, every day we work with people around the country, and I suppose in some ways, you know, we all know what a probate sale looks of a house, and people used to live in those houses before they passed away.
Yeah.
So sometimes when people get older, we all know what happens to your income, and if you lose a spouse or a partner, we know what happens to your income after that. So your ability to maintain your house at that level. And we honestly saying, where we have a terrible thing called excess winter deaths as it is, where we lose several hundred people a year, right, because of the cold in Ireland, right? Everything else is that is the solution. Like in a country that's come so far and so long, we still have an awful lot of older people with solid fuel, an awful lot of older people relying on oil and tanks, the highest percentage of any age group. So really, and then we talk about BER, we talk about retrofitting, but ultimately people don't have either they can't either get through the administrative burden and the length of time it takes, or else they can't afford the cost.
Do you think that the government needs to do more for people in need of it all the time, as opposed to just these one-off measures, or do you welcome these one-off measures as enough, but that will be pulled away in a couple of months, in a couple of weeks' time, potentially?
I think the measures are always welcome. You know, we've been plunged into a crisis again that nobody probably expected 3 weeks ago.
Can we expect the government to help us out on every crisis around the world?
I think if you have a family that has been plunged into a sudden diagnosis of a life-limiting illness and are down in income, possibly too, because it's not just the patient, it's the carer as well, that both people might have to give up their income. We need to look at these situations, and we need to look at them on a human level and with compassion.
When it comes to all of this, Jane, the government, they've said that they're going to keep on looking at this. Obviously, inflation is going to be a big issue. We would hope for, at a European level, they were hoping to be dropping interest rates this year. It looks now they're going to have to increase them because of everything that's happening and the inflationary measures that are coming. So when we're talking about this, was there any indication of how long they thought they'd have to be looking at this? No, sure, it's the whim of Donald Trump.
That's absolutely it. Yeah, no one knows. The situation is so volatile. I mean, we saw yesterday the comments from Donald Trump saying that, you know, he's putting a 5-day hold on additional strikes on energy infrastructure in Iran. Iran came out then and said, you know, that's not true. We've had no negotiations. That's Donald Trump. It's fake news was the word one official had used, saying that, you know, he's saying this to get a handle on oil prices globally. So we don't really know when this is going to to end, and that's the government's issue as well. They don't know when this is going to end. They've said they will be flexible with this, they'll keep it under review. But I mean, what the soundings that we're hearing from like the likes of the International Energy Agency is that this is the largest crisis that we've seen in the energy sector in history. So it doesn't look like this is going to get better anytime soon.
No. Listen, we'd love to hear from you at home on this as well. It's set to cost the government around 235 to 250 million euro, but this is the sort of money that they've probably brought in already in the last number of weeks from the excise. So is it actually enough just seeing a rise of 15 cent and 20 cent at the pumps? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for coming in to join us this morning to discuss. Jane Matthews from the Journal, Seán Moynihan from Alone, and Martina Higgins from the Mayo Roscommon Hospice Foundation.